when I was a kid growing up in Staten Island, New York, I remember my first experience with institutions, with public institutions, was PS 30, Public School 30. It was this big brick building in the middle of this quiet residential area. I would walk there every day. I won't say I looked forward to going, but I certainly respected it. It was impressive. Like, teachers cared about me. They cared about all of us. They worked hard to teach us things that I knew were important. My parents respected the teachers. My teachers respected my parents. It was so obviously like a societal good. And I remember every Thursday, there would be like a dozen heavy-duty garbage cans of coal ash sitting out in front neatly. And this special garbage truck would come. And these workers with like weight belts would lift these huge cans up and like dump them in the back of the truck. And every year we'd go down, the custodians, that's what they were called, the custodians would show us like the coal furnace. And we'd get a kind of education in like where this coal came from, you know? And I knew that there were miners that worked underground that extracted this from the earth. And it wasn't like the coal just kept the building warm. It was like it kind of fired up the institution. It kind of fired up our minds, right? So I always had this tremendous respect for like miners and for coal mining, because if it weren't for them, it was almost like I don't think I would have gotten the education that I'd gotten. And then coincidentally, right, my wife, my Spanish wife, I live in Andalusia, I live in Seville, okay? She grew up in a small town outside of Andalusia, about 30 miles outside, a coal town, okay? Both of my wife's grandfathers died of black lung. So whatever is in coal miners, okay, is in my wife's blood. And whatever is in coal miners is in my son's blood, okay? So I was especially interested in the book that I'm reviewing today, 12 Rounds in Lowe's Gym, Boxing and Manhood in Appalachia, written by a guy named Todd D Snyder, who is the son of a fifth-generation coal miner. The book came out in 2018 with West Virginia Press. Okay? Todd D Snyder right now is I think an associate professor of rhetoric, writing, and communication at Siena College in Loudonville, New York. But he grew up a trailer park kid in a small rural coal mining town called Cowan, West Virginia. And this book is about what it's like to live there in this insular community, how difficult it is to get out, how it's possible to get out, and also how it's possible to make a difference there. Okay? But before I get into depth, let me speak a little bit about how I discovered Todd D Snyder. He's one of an impressive and every day more accomplished staple of writers recruited by Kyle Serafine, who is the editorial brains behind a very promising and professional small press called Hamilcar Publications. I don't know if it's innovative for a small press guy to go out there and actively recruit good writers to write the books that he imagines should be out there. I don't know if that's innovative, but are there other small press people doing that? Okay? Todd D Snyder isn't the only good writer in this staple, but Kyle Serafine, in an interview, mentioned this book and as the precursor, or one of the reasons why he recruited Todd D Snyder to write two other books. One of them is called Beatboxing: How Hip-Hop Changed the Fight Game. That was published by Hamilcar Publications in 2021. And the other one, maybe even the more important one, is called Bundini, Don't Believe the Hype, about Drew Bundini Brown. He was Muhammad Ali's hype man for 20 years. And he also worked with Sugar Ray Robinson before that for 7 years. So basically, he was attached to two of the greatest fighters of all time, probably the two most poetic fighters of all time. Physically poetic, okay? As well as almost like poetic in a literary sense, thanks to Drew Bundini Brown, especially in Muhammad Ali's case. You know, he came up with floats like a butterfly, stings like a bee. He was with Ali in all of his important press conferences. He was in his corner always, okay? A true American character. He was also a movie star. He was in all those, a bunch of black exploitation films. You know, pulled himself out of poverty to become, you know, a seminal figure in American culture, right? And Todd D Snyder's book on him is the first book on him, okay? It's a beautiful book too, the cover is gorgeous. Todd D Snyder's first experience with the power of the written word. The written word as poetic expression was through hip hop. At Siena College, he teaches courses like rhetoric and Appalachian culture, rhetoric and hip hop culture. He's got a independent study called Hip Hop and American Politics. You know, the first section of this book, I don't know, man. You know, he's got so many balls in the air. The tension in the book is so taut. He's writing about coal mining culture. He's writing about, you know, trying to live up to his father's reputation in football, and then sort of being this kind of low-level professional fighter who put it all aside to sort of raise his family in the coal mines, working in the coal mines, getting the family out of the trailer park, and then doing good in the town, helping out young kids. It's about, you know, the difficulty of leaving this isolated world, of leaving this kind of comfort zone, of pursuing his dreams as a writer. It's about, you know, manhood, what it means to be a man in that culture. It's about poverty. It's about boxing. All of these balls in the air. And he's doing one scene after another, so it maintains this kind of really, really tight rhythm. You know, I got a book coming out in a few months, right? It's called My Half Orange, a story of love and language in Seville, right? And, you know, there's all the insecurities that come with that. Like, you know, finally I'm going to be exposed. It's going to be out there for everyone to see whether I'm the real thing or not. So, like, I'm reading this book, right? And I get a case of what in Spanish is called envidia sana, healthy envy, right? I'm wondering, like, holy shit, like, is my book this taut? Can I keep as many balls in the air and perform with such grace and perform with such art? You know, this is a good thing. This is an absolutely good thing. Okay? You know, my book is also about this kind of pedestal that I put my father on. Right? I admired him too much, as I think Todd D Snyder admired his father too much. Okay? And I remember my father, and like Todd D Snyder's father, Mike Lowe Snyder, his father's very wise. He gives great advice. He's selfless. My father was too. And one time my father said to me, he said, you know, good books lay the groundwork for other good books. Like, if you want to write good literature, then you should root for everyone writing good literature. Because if their books are good and they succeed, and they will succeed, your book, if you write good literature, will also succeed. All right? So if I'm reading a book and I get this envidia sana, this healthy envy, I know that I'm reading something that's feeding me, that's making me a better writer and therefore a better person. Okay? So yeah, that first section of the book is just stellar. I don't think the other two sections stand up to it quite as much. I'm not saying they're bad at all, but if this is a 3-round fight, I mean, he shows himself to be a master in the first round. Okay? You know, there are lines where He'll write, for example, about his dad. My dad held a PhD in Robin Hood ethics from the School of Hard Knocks. Or his life had become a short story and he dreamed of becoming a novel. Or when he talks about religion, he says, even Jesus Christ, with all his talk of peace, love, and forgiveness, would never have made it big in my town without that long ring walk to Calvary. Okay? There is a kind of tone to his writing that reminds me of the great tabloid columnists in New York City. Writers like Pete Hamill, Jimmy Breslin. Even though Todd D Snyder came out of rural West Virginia, maybe because he was also fed by other kind of urban poets, okay, out of the sort of hip-hop genre, it kind of fed into his writing, okay, and because he is very, very skilled, and because he has this kind of like street poet sensibility to his prose, he's able to kind of relate so many things back to boxing, whether that's his small town being a shot fighter, you know, whose best days are behind it, or, you know, relating the act of love or writing or manhood, coal mining, all of it, relating it all back to boxing, which I think is a brave thing to do because could very easily fall into the hokey, but it doesn't because of this guy's pen. All right? The reason why I don't think section 2 and 3 stand up to the mastery of section 1 is because he kind of steps out of the picture in many, many ways. Like I said, it's more a book about his dad than it is about him. Okay? About the gym that his dad had, its many incarnations. At one point he writes near the end about how it was never a physical space. Lowe's gym was never a physical space, and I think that kind of says it very, very well. It's the spirit of his dad, this kind of community spirit of creating this hope among these marginalized people. You know, how this gym, going to this gym, was for these different people that came in and out of it. And one of the things that Todd D Snyder writes very well is he describes all of these characters that come in and out of the gym as they're training for these local tough man competitions or for like amateur careers or for these low-level professional careers. These people come across very, very vividly, and his dad comes across vividly also through his interactions with these people and through his interactions with this kind of church that sponsors his community center. All of this stuff is very, very well done. But Todd Snyder kind of comes out of it. You know, I mean, there are places where, you know, the book really, really lifts off and soars, like in the first section. Like there's a section where he writes about him sparring when he was an amateur fighter, Todd D Snyder, with a guy named Darren Bam Bam Abraham, this professional fighter. And, you know, with his father's motivation, he stands 3 rounds with this guy and holds his own and gets in some good punches. Okay, that's a great scene. Or there's also a scene where his father kind of is coming into his own with this, you know, with Lowe's gym, and is getting recognized kind of nationally for it, and is feeling, you know, getting his much deserved recognition for it. You know, Todd D Snyder talks about his shame for kind of stepping out of there, not really being there for his father in his moments of glory because he's too caught up in his academic world. That's good. Also, there's another scene where he kind of takes on J.D. Vance's polemical and tendentious memoir. I think it was called Hillbilly Elegy, where I guess the thesis statement of that book was, you know, these rural peoples have to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and get themselves out of this poverty, where I think Todd D Snyder writes a very eloquent and lucid argument explaining the apathy and complacency of some of these people. Taking advantage of the system as the system had taken advantage of them. So there are moments where the book really, really soars in the second and third parts, and I never once was bored, okay? This guy is a talent to watch. How does the book sum up? I don't know. like real life in many ways, because there are all these stories that kind of, some are tied up, some aren't. This is not a criticism of the book, you know? He's writing life as it is. Some of these stories, some of these kids that come through just never really realize their potential. They kind of remain stagnant. The talent or the story is truncated by circumstances, you know? So it doesn't end with this grand crescendo, but it ends in a very true fashion and an illuminating fashion. I don't know. I loved the book. I loved it. I wish there were more books like this out there. Maybe there are. I mean, in many ways, Book Rant is leading me to them, you know? Anyway, man, check it out. Have a good time with it. You know? It's entertaining and edifying.